Today, my video is going to be about quitting eating disorder habits. Sorry I haven't put like a video up. I'm a few days late, but yeah, I just got back to Manchester, which is where I am at university. So I've been kind of catching up with friends that live up here and stuff. Quitting habits. Now I reckon that some of you are going to be like, oh, here's the kind of secret answer to quitting eating disorder habits. And by habits, I mean kind of like counting calories, exercising, facing fear foods, increasing calories, stuff like that. And the thing is, there isn't a magical answer. And I think that's what holds most people back in recovery, is this kind of looking for something, some way that will just show you how to do it without it being a massive anxiety-provoking experience. The thing is, it's not that way. Like, with an eating disorder, you're going to have to face the anxiety, whatever. Whilst I was trying to quit exercise for the second time, the first time I quit it, it wasn't kind of like a very conscious decision, because it was when my previous partner and I ended, and I kind of just lay in bed and I didn't eat or do anything. I didn't even get out of bed. I mean, the not eating was nothing to do with the eating disorder. It was literally I didn't do anything at all except cry. So exercising became a thing I just didn't do. I couldn't do anything at all, and so I didn't even have to think about not exercising. It just happened that way. But as soon as I became a little bit more stable, I started exercising again. Actually, that's not true. I didn't exercise for quite a while, and I realised that it was really great, but I did start again, and I introduced it back into my life, and very quickly I was exercising a lot again. Now, when I finally realised that was a problem, well, I realised it was a problem, but when I realised I had to do something about it, I found it really, really, really hard to stop. And obviously it was the first time I had to make a real conscious decision to actually stop exercising. And I kept going on the Eurytopia forums and asking people, like, how did you do it? What do you do to quit? How do you make yourself quit? Because I just can't. And funnily enough, there was no magic answer. The thing to do is stop. That's all there is to it. When you have an eating disorder behaviour, no one else can stop it for you, and there is no way to go about it. The best way to go about something is to do it, or the best way to go about not doing something is to not do it. It's the only way. I mean, if you want to stop something, you have to stop it. And I'm not undermining how difficult it is, because I remember how difficult it is. And I really, really thought it was impossible to just stop without some magic way. I really did. I just couldn't fathom just stopping like everybody was telling me to do. People were telling me there is no magic way, you just have to stop and see what happens. And eventually it did kind of click, and I said to myself, I will give myself 2 weeks. The reason I really needed to quit exercising for me was actually, the mental part was probably the biggest reason I actually needed to, but the reason I stopped exercising was because I got this amazing wave of fatigue every single day, and I was sleeping like 10 hours a night, and then I would get up and halfway through the day I'd need to sleep again, and it was ridiculous because it was ruining my day, and I shouldn't have been that tired. And I kept trying to think of other things it could be and making excuses, but then I realised it has to be the exercise. So I said, I'll give myself 2 weeks, and if I feel better, then I will stop. So I did. I stopped for 2 weeks, and funnily enough, I felt a lot better. My energy returned. I wasn't sleeping during the day. And also I just didn't want to exercise as soon as I'd stopped. So, like, you have to do it. And facing fears and stopping habits, as I said, that can't be done by anyone else. People can support you and encourage you to do these things, but no one can do it for you. And I think a lot of people put off their kind of recovery efforts because they're waiting for this magic answer to tell them how to do it. Some people, they try and do it with the least anxiety possible. In fact, a lot of people try to do it with no anxiety, and they say, well, I can't increase this amount of calories yet, or I can't stop exercising because my anxiety just goes through the roof. Well, yes, that is what happens, and that's what you have to deal with, because if you could recover without any anxiety, we would have all done this a very long time ago. If it was easy to recover, we would have all, chosen to recover a very long time ago. It was a very, very hard decision to recover for all of us, and it's because we knew it was going to be really, really hard, and it was going to be really difficult to recover because you've got an eating disorder telling you not to. And that's what you have to face when you're challenging your fears and stopping your habits, is it is going to be the eating disorder is going to kick up a fuss. And that's why we never recovered beforehand, because our eating disorder was kicking up a fuss every time we do anything against its rules. And so we keep going further into the eating disorder, and I mean, that's how it works. So to come out of the eating disorder and into recovery, you have to face the anxieties and the fears, and you have to go through it. I think the quote is, if you're going through hell, keep going. And I think it's a Winston Churchill quote, and it's true. Like, you have to go through the hell to get to the other side. And it's really terrifying, and it is really horrible. I mean, it's not great, but so is an eating disorder. Recovery is horrible, an eating disorder is horrible, but one of them has a positive end and the other one has a negative end. So, I mean, if both is going to be really horrific, then you might as well choose the one with a positive ending. So, which is obviously recovery. So you can't do recovery without anxiety. There is no magic answer to kind of make the anxiety non-existent. And I know some people will say, well, having the huge amount of anxiety will cause me to relapse, but like, a lot of people do recover and they do have to go through anxiety as well. And actually, even though it does feel like the anxiety might be so much that you relapse, I don't think that's generally true. The eating disorder, I think, uses that as a fear factor, saying, like, if you do that, you're going to get worse again. But really you don't, you get better, because when you increase calories, your brain starts to function better. You're able to be more logical, more rational. Your cognitive abilities will be able to work properly again, and your perception of yourself and your perception of your eating disorder changes, and your anxiety lessens, and your kind of fear of food will lessen as well. I know that seems weird, because the eating disorder said if you eat more, your anxiety and your fear will be more, but when you've kind of made that decision to recover and you need to increase more, and you need to do that, when you actually start to do it and it feeds and nourishes your brain and your body, things start to work in your brain more, and you start to see things more how they are. I'm not saying the eating disorder completely vanishes. For some people, it actually does when they hit minimums, the Eurotopia minimums, the Minimord minimums. When they hit minimums or more, a lot of people say the actual thoughts about food actually vanish for some people, which is amazing. I mean, I wish I was one of those people, but it doesn't vanish for me. But definitely eating less makes the voices get louder, and the less you eat, the louder it gets. So if you eat more, the quieter it gets. And I know the eating disorder will tell you that's not true, but it really is for a lot of people. But obviously you will go through the anxiety, and that is something you have to face. I mean, so when I started eating more, I would literally be curled up on my bed, crying, feeling uncomfortable, and horrible. I hated being full, and I think a lot of people get that. They hate being full. Absolutely hated it, and I wanted to literally tear the skin off my body. I felt that bad, but I kept persisting in doing it, and kind of every time it got easier and easier until, you know, at one point then I could just eat and be full and get on with my day and not cry about it. I'm not saying I don't feel slightly uncomfortable when I'm very full, but, you know, eating a normal amount now is just normal. It's not particularly anxiety provoking. So that's what you have to do, is work through the anxiety. I mean, there are some techniques you could use, like for facing fear foods. Some people like to just go out and face 2 or 3 at once. Some people like to face one every week or one every 2 weeks. And that's fine. I mean, easing into some things slower. I wouldn't say slowly, because I think that just prolongs the recovery process, but going into it slower is okay. I mean, you don't have to suddenly just buy all your fear foods at once and eat them all, because that might be a bit of an overload. So fear foods could be approached, you know, one at a time. For me, I kind of wrote down a list of them, but I didn't really think about them. For me, I'm kind of different to a lot of people though, is with the eating disorder and in the recovery process, but I had this list written down, but I didn't really use it as a reference. I kind of just knew in my head what my fear foods are, and then one day I'd just be like, you know what, today I'm gonna go get a milkshake, because there's that place on the main road that sells all those milkshakes, and I've wanted one for years. I mean, there was a milkshake place. When I was in the depths of my eating disorder, I walked past it with a friend, and I said, one day I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna get a milkshake. And then 1.5 years later, I was like, yeah, I need to go get that milkshake, because I promised myself that one day I would get one. So I just kind of went there, and for me, we're talking about this on the Eurotopia forums about, do people get anxious whilst they're eating their fear foods, or before or after, or what? Well, for me, I kind of as soon as I've made the decision to go and challenge the fear food, the anxiety kind of goes away for me. I think it's kind of the unknown that gives me the anxiety, the whole I'm not allowed it. But as soon as I give myself permission, say, you are allowed it tomorrow, you are allowed a milkshake, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get a milkshake, and it doesn't really cause me much anxiety. That kind of happened for me in my eating disorder as well, actually. When I was not eating very much, I had a birthday coming up, and every time I have a birthday, I have a tea party at my house, and buy loads of foods, and all my friends come over, and we drink tea and eat lots of food. And then my birthday's in April, and I was really, really sick in April. It was probably the worst that I'd ever been. It was just before I decided to go into recovery, and for months and months before, I was so anxious about it, but I wouldn't back down about not having it, because some people were like, well, maybe you should just not have it because it's obviously causing you so much anxiety. But I was like, no, this is my birthday. I do this every year, and I want to continue doing it, and I like doing it and having all my friends together in my garden, and it's nice. So I prepared for it in my head for so long, and because I was in the depths of my eating disorder, it was way more difficult to kind of give myself that permission, and it was months and months and months before I finally was like, yeah, I'm okay with it now. And on the day I was okay with it because I'd mentally prepared for it. Now obviously that took me months and months because I was in eating disorder, but same kind of concept in recovery is giving myself permission, and the anxiety kind of going away with that. Now I know that doesn't happen for a lot of people, but I think I've been waffling a bit in this video about myself. There isn't any kind of, I mean, there are steps that some people can make, and I think steps are kind of useful for some people, but I think a lot of people try and convince themselves that small steps is the answer, when actually that's your eating disorder trying to cling on as much as possible. And I think increasing calories is the biggest kind of one, and exercise is the biggest, like the other one for that, because people think, you know, I have to increase by small amounts, otherwise I'll freak out and restrict again. And I don't think that's true, and I don't think that's true for a lot of people. I think as people fully commit to recovery and make the leap and eat the minimums, that's when their brain starts to be fed properly and they start to actually feel a lot better. And actually increasing by small amounts is still clinging onto that control, and you're still not giving yourself enough food. You're still under rules and routines, and it's still very eating disorder driven. It's not fully committing to recovery. So, I mean, for some people it probably is a little easier, because I can't make rules. I can't say that for everyone it'll be easier, because there'll always be those exceptions. But I don't think that you should convince yourself the exception when you're just listening to the eating disorder instead. And obviously, of course, I have to mention that increasing slowly at the beginning, if you've been eating under 1,000 calories, or you've been excessively purging or exercising, then increasing calories by 200 to 300 every 2 or 3 days to avoid refeeding syndrome. Now, obviously, that is something that is actually for your health, and a lot of people actually find that really difficult, because like some people like me, their hunger cues kick in like straight away, and actually trying to avoid refeeding syndrome by eating still small amounts and increasing at a small rate is actually like really difficult for some people. Obviously though, when you increase by a small amount, once you get to 2,000 calories, you can make the jump to your minimums straight away, and that's fine. But apart from that, obviously, I think that people should just go straight into their minimums, and it will help them feel better, and they just have to face the fear and do it anyway. I think I'm waffling again. Yeah. I think really what the only thing I'm really trying to say, even though it's taken me 18 minutes to say it, is that there is no magic way to go about recovery. There's no tricks to kind of doing this without facing the fear and having the anxiety and having to experience going through uncomfortable sensations and emotions. It's a difficult process, but it's worth it. And those of you who are looking for the magic way, you're going to have to put that idea aside and just kind of get on with recovery. Stop looking for the perfect way to recover. There is no perfect way to recover. I stand by my opinion that the Minimord guidelines on Eurotopia are the best way to recover, because it doesn't take into account diet culture, which is used in a lot of recovery methods, and I don't agree with a lot of it. The Minimord guidelines, brilliant, work for a lot of people. But there is no perfect way, and even the people who are following the Minimord guidelines have their slightly different variations on it. There is no magic answer. That is all I'm trying to say, I think. And you really need to do yourself and your body and your life and your health and your happiness a massive favour, and just go for it. Like, just go for it. You can do it. You can definitely do it. You might think you can't, but you can. Everybody can. We all have a huge amount of strength inside us that we don't really realise is there, because the eating disorder has tried to take it from us and swallow it and consume it. But it is there, and it will grow bigger and bigger as soon as you start really, really doing recovery. you can do it. I promise you, it's definitely inside you to do it. So please do it, because you deserve it so much. You really, really deserve to recover and live a life that's not consumed by this shitty thing. Sorry for swearing. Sorry, not sorry. Yeah. So, I hope all of you are jumping in, doing recovery. And those of you who are struggling, find your strength. Find it. It's there. I promise. I hope you're all doing well. I'm sorry this video is so long. I did waffle on a massive amount. Have a lovely Tuesday. It's Tuesday, isn't it? Yes, it is Tuesday. Have a lovely Tuesday.